Can you give me just a little bit of background on how you even got started in media and journalism?
Yes, college, Lincoln University of Missouri, HBCU. I didn't actually, Danielle, I didn't go until I was 20. And coming from Chicago, I went to public grammar school, Catholic high school. But Catholic high school, it kind of put on me, I didn't want to put more on my mom as far as finances. So I
I
set
went
out for
to
two
Catholic high
years.
school too. So what school did you go to?
I went to Maria.
Okay, I went to Macaulay.
So you know,
I
yes,
do.
public grammar Catholic high, set out for 2 years, but I always had a longing in me to want to go to college. Now, I knew when I was young, and I always tell people like on my radio show now on VON, I say, think back to when you were little. What did you used to always do that was so effortless? And when I was young, my stepfather, he had records, like all records. So I would have a fake radio station, like real talk. And I called it, because in Chicago, anything east of the Mississippi is W. So
That's right.
anything west is K. So I called it WSMT, which is my initial, Samantha Marie Thomas. So it was WSMT. Corny, but I used to play records, and he'd get mad because it was his 33s and 45. So I would just say, your 33, you got this playing, blah, blah, blah. So when I went to college, though, Danielle, oddly enough, I left. I knew, one of my biggest inspirations growing up was School Days. That movie right there. Girl, I wanted to go to Mission College and be a gamma ray. That's what I thought. I'm like, my mother, well, that's not real. I said,
That's how
well,
I went to a different world.
exactly.
Yeah.
I said, but mission might not be real, but that's real. You can really like be around Black people in college like that, like Black people that's doing good. So, come from a decent background family wise though, but I always knew that I had a longing in me to want to go to college. But like oddly enough, Danielle, when I went to Lincoln, wound up losing my job, and one of my friends came back home and she had on her AK sorority pin and she was Miss Lincoln. So she was in the Ebony magazine. Remember they used to put out a Black College Queens in Ebony?
Yeah, yeah.
Girl, myself with my no fear walked up to her, touched the AK pin, which is taboo. I said, I want that. And she said, and I want to be in the Ebony. And she was like, what, Samantha? Well, you got to go to college. What are you doing with your life? I said, well, I'm working. She sent me the information for Lincoln. I got fired from my job like the next week, but got accepted to Lincoln. And so I went away that fall of 2000. So I turned 20 in September and majored in computers, Danielle. So I lit up. I'm like, let me get in a career. At least I know I'm gonna make some money. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and my COBOL teacher, and that's like a computer class that you got to take. It's the coding class. Yeah. I was in these classes like, what am I doing with myself? Girl, I was bored, but I'm like, yeah. And so I would come to class dressed up. I'm like, my professor put me to the side. He said, Miss Thomas. I said, yes. He said, let me talk to you. He said, you are not doing well. Well, you're failing the test. But when it comes to presentation, you're amazing. Have you thought about journalism? I said, well, no, not really. But he said, maybe you should consider journalism. And so I went and talked to the advisor like the next day. And he said, well, what do you want to do? I said, maybe, I'll start with the newspaper, but y'all got something for TV. Right. I never even thought about, radio. I just knew something where I could talk because the station school had a radio station. And he said, let's do it. I didn't look back since. But it took that leap of getting out of my comfort zone and not staying in something just for the money and going after something that you're passionate about. And I didn't really know, Danielle, and I love my HBCUs and I think college is okay, but you still got to network no matter what you major in, where you go. It's about networking and then being kind while you're networking too, because you never know.
I was just, when you were talking about your experiences, I was like, wow, it's cool that you had somebody to say, you know what, you're not really doing good in this, but you're great at this. How about considering that?
Yeah, even leaving Chicago was at 20 was another leap of faith for me. And I grew up in the church and I would always hear step out on faith, but nobody was doing it, Danielle. And I'm like, well, what that mean? What that mean? I just, after college, Danielle, I ended up coming back home and I knew Chicago is Market 3. It's tough to get here, but it is. And a lot of people, I knew I wanted to be in front of the camera, but I was like, let me see what's behind the scenes. Ended up getting a job back in my college town at the CBS affiliate, making $5 an hour, working 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. But
wow.
I do say yes, but I got my foot in the door. Ended up production assistant, but I ended up working my way up to producer. It ended up, it's a small market, but you got to get in somewhere. And a lot of people think, you got to start. I was market 135. And it's 210 markets total. So I started small, ended up making the leap to Vegas market. I think it was 45 at the time, and producing out there too. But I knew I was good in front of the camera. But I said, okay, God, whatever you're doing, just I have your way. As I look back, Danielle, me even having the drive to want to go away ended up propelling me into nonstop movement. And when I got to Vegas, ended up working at Fox News in Vegas. But I ended up I was like, I want to work on the morning show. And I remember the news director, well, that's not for you. You're not ready. Girl, the CBS station found me 6 months later. Started on the weekend. I worked the morning show on the CBS affiliate in Vegas. Ended up getting my Emmy working on the morning show where they told me I couldn't do it.
You find that even though you knew you wanted to be in front of the camera, having these experiences in production and kind of in the background actually prepared you for where you are now?
It did, Danielle, because what happens with a lot of people, and I say thank you, Lord, for not putting Samantha Thomas in front of the camera when she wanted to be. I needed to humble myself. And that was, now I look back, I know it now, because I was always cool, always nice, but I know being in front of the camera comes with a little bit of, okay, all right, I need this. But the producer, I'm writing the newscast, so I had to cater to the anchor. But in the background, you learn everything as a producer. So some of my anchors wasn't always nice. Some of them wouldn't read their scripts and get mad. I'm like, well, I wrote it, but it taught me how to prepare myself for that upfront position. So funny story. It did. I think you need to learn all sides of anything you work in. Don't get tied to one particular job in any industry. Learn everything so you can't be dispensable. You want to be indispensable in the industry. So I left Vegas, came back to Chicago. But right before I left, Danielle, Oprah, and I don't know if you remember, she had this casting call for a thing called Your Own Show. That was like 2008,
wow.
9.
Yeah.
Remember that? Everybody was sending out different tapes. Okay. So my mother said, well, I said, I'm going to try out for that. She said, what you going to have a show about? I said, I don't know. I'm just going to try it out. So I'm in Vegas. I drove to Laguna Niguel, California. You remember MapQuest? We had to print it out. Remember that?
Yeah.
Girl, so I went to the Kohl's sponsored it, Kohl's the store. So I got the lay of the land. And I'm like, okay, this is where the casting call is going to be tomorrow. So I get to the casting call. Girl, the line was from like 47th Street to Roosevelt. I said, what is this? So it was like a cattle call. And I'm like, people coming up with aprons on, with juggling. I'm like, dang, they got show ideas. And they put us in groups. And I'm like, and it said, this is Mark Burnett, who was the executive producer of Fear Factor. He was like there. So I'm like, oh, Mark Burnett, girl. So we all in a tent, maybe like 20 of us. So the casting director, now this is California. You know how they do. She's looking down. Mark Burnett came in our tent and introduced himself. So everybody had to introduce themselves. And your question was, and what is your show about? I'm like, they got everybody, my show's this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm the casting agent. She went look up and they were like, okay, ma'am. I said, how you doing? I'm Samantha Thomas. I'm from Chicago, Oprah City. And she looked up as soon as I started talking. And she said, what is she didn't ask nobody else. And she said, what is your show about? I said, I don't know. I just want to talk to people. That's what I said. I said, I just want to talk to people. And she said, and she laughed. And the guy, it was a brother, he said, they're going to call you back. I'm like, even if they don't, I tried. And that is another lesson to people. You never know. You just got to try. So I'm in California. I called my mom on the BlackBerry. She said, so how did it go? I said, it was dope. It was good. It was nice. I said, but let me take a nap, Mom. I'm tired. I'd have been up all day. I'll call you back. So she called back like five. I said, Mom, I'm tired. They said, Samantha Thomas. I said, yes. These are the producers for Your Own Show. Can you get to Bel Air tomorrow? I'm like, Bel Air? You think Fresh Prince? I'm like, okay. What? I made it to the second round of that casting call. Drove to Bel Air the next day. I didn't make it on the show, Danielle, but I use that as another testimony to say you just never know what happens when you try. But I knew I wanted a show after that. I knew I wanted to talk show. So Fast forward, I come back to Chicago. Ended up producing Chicago's Best, the food show. I produced that for about a couple of years. I came back. I was at Channel 2 for a little while. Then I went and produced Chicago's Best. So I was getting paid to eat. Still knew I was better in front of the camera. Married Food and News. I come up with the concept of my web series, Small Talk. I said, I'm going to take people out to eat and just talk to them. And I knew how to book at restaurants. And then I'm like, but they have to be a socialite. They got to have a following so they can share it. My sister said, you need to download this app. I said, what? Like, she said, you post pictures on it and people like it. I said, like Facebook? She said, no. I said, what? I said, you mean to tell me all I'm going to do is post some pictures and people going to like them? I said, how corny is that? She said, trust me. I said, well, what's the app? She said, it's called Instagram. I said, Instagram? She said, download it. That's going to help you. I'm like, my little sister. I just started posting pictures. People started liking them. I say, people nosy. So let me capitalize off of this. So Small Talk, Facebook, I'm putting it on social media. Got a cool production crew, black on production crew, my sorority sister, Chris Christian, and produced my episode of Small Talk. I got Candace Jordan, who we know, Chicago socialite. I wanted to be diverse in my approach. Pastor Hannah agreed to do an episode. I took him out to eat. He has got me. I wanted to be diverse because you got to tap different areas, but I never forgot who I was in the midst of that. Right. So doing all this, but I couldn't sustain it financially, Danielle. So I said, well, let me try to make it a talk show. Some investors wanted to invest in it back in Vegas. I said, if I go back there, show me some money. And went back to Vegas in 2017. They didn't do the show. So I ended up going to UNLV. They played me. So I'm like, okay, but God always going to take care of his kids when you remain faithful and walk in your calling. Went to UNLV, looked at their studio, which was top of the line because it's UNLV. They didn't even realize what they had. I created my own talk show, got a set, got some chairs. Girl, made it all look good. Found some people to interview, got that out there on PBS. I funded this myself, but I knew I wanted my dream. Girl, we ended up going to my sorority meeting, January 2019, and one lady introduced herself, a sister. She said, I am the news director for ABC here in Vegas. And I'm like, a sister? Right. News director? That's white men. And I stayed after the meeting. I sat there. I said, I just want to introduce myself to you. And I wanted to shout you out for being a Black woman news director. She said, what do you do? I said, well, I had a web series. One of my older sorors, older AK sorors, she said, don't play Samantha. You do everything. She's so and so and so and so. And I'm like, she said, have you ever thought about being a traffic anchor? I said, no. She said, are you scared of heights? I said, no, I'm from Chicago. I ain't scared of nothing. Danielle, she said, send me your resume, send me your reel. And I had a gig. I always got gigs. So God kept me going with gigs. I had a hosting gig in Seattle for a food competition. I called my mother. She said, send her your stuff in the morning. I sent her my stuff. She called me back. This is the whole news director. They ended up giving me a job reporting for what? Small Talk. But they put me around town, which used to be my hashtag. So I got a job reporting in Vegas in front of the camera. And fast forward, came back in 19 to Chicago, and May of 2019, kind of depressed. I was a little depressed, but I just kept going. But I said, God, I'm not working no jobs no more. So whatever you want to do. And I just revealed last night on my radio show that I drove Uber. I did. I'm like, it'll keep my communication skills going. Girl, people was in there giving me tips, Danielle, because my conversations would be so good. They didn't want to get out my car. December of last year, Coalescent organization had an event and I was the MC. So grateful. I just kept putting myself out there, But in the midst of that, I knew that I wasn't feeling good on the outside or inside. So I got myself in the gym and I just started, just taking care of my body more. And I just felt that in me. It was Labor Day of last year where I was like 198, almost 200 pounds. Okay. So girl, so I said, okay, well, let me start doing this. And so God started opening more doors because when I started feeling better, when you look good, you feel good. So I started looking better and I'm feeling better. And I want my sisters to know that too. The gym is your friend, okay? And eating right. Yeah, Black people need to eat better. And they sat me at a head table at this event where I'm the MC because I had easy access to the stage. Melody Span Cooper sat directly across from me. So she kept staring at me. Now my mama is over here and my two friends that came to support. And I had to go present people with their awards. And Melody turned around but she kept staring at me. I'm like, that's Melody Span Cooper. She's beautiful. I know she is from VON. Now, this is a great, well-attended event. Pinterest was one of the sponsors, so it's some good mix of people. And I'm in here rocking this microphone. It was the first time they had always had news anchors from Chicago be the MC. Right. So they gave me a chance because I'm out here as social media influencer, if you will. Right. And Melody said, what do you do? Here go that question again. I said, well, I have gigs and stuff, She said, come see me. I said, okay. I walked in her office, Danielle, probably like 2 weeks later, right. It was after Christmas though, because not 2 weeks. So it was after Christmas, like January of 2020. And she said, what you want, Samantha? So what do you want to do? I said, I want my own show. And she looked, and you have not because you asked not.
Oh my God, yes.
And I took you through the phases of this and in brevity to really get you to this. And Melody said, I don't have any room for you on the roster, but can you fill in from time to time on weather, traffic, and news? I said, yes, I can. Mm-hmm. I ain't never did radio in my life. I'm like, well, what? I don't know how to work no board, but I was like, I know how to talk. Right. So they start filling me in this is when Maze Jackson was there. And he was a hard person to crack too. But so Maze, his sister was like, wait a minute, whose voice is that I hear on the radio? She said, is that Samantha? He was like, yeah, Samantha. She was like, oh, that's wow. So, but Maze, he loved my professionalism. I would get there early and and he was just like, we just started bonding. He's no longer there at the station, but he's doing great things over at his media company. But they had me fill in on the evening show and for my brother Chat Daddy, and I still much respect for Chat. I love me some Chat Daddy, and he, I let him know. I said, Chat, I'm filling in on your show. He was just like, okay, and that was All-Star Week, and I had my girlfriends come in talking about relationships because people love that. And people liked me. I got on Facebook Live while I did it, which was something that they weren't really doing at VON. Right. Maze would do it, but not on the VON platform. And so I'm like, let me just try it. Girl, people started really liking me. And things happened, at the station, and COVID happened. And a lot of the things happened where people couldn't come to work. Right. Samantha could come to work. Samantha was in the right place at the right time. Samantha landed the evening show in April. So that's how I got the show. And Melody said, I want you to stick around. We're launching a digital TV platform, and I think you'll be great on it. And I'm like, okay, I'm just happy to be here. And what happens, I've worked in some big markets. I've gotten great checks working for different, I work networks, different TV networks. VON has a legacy. And what happens, and I'll be honest with you, Danielle, very transparent moment. I make the less I've ever made in my career, but I'm the happiest.
I understand that.
I understand. I love that.
And even with COVID, like I'm so amazed at how creatives have been able to just elevate in such an amazing way. And your story reminds me of the fact that we have to be fearless. Like none of this would have happened for you if you didn't have that kind of confidence to be fearless and say, you know what, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'm gonna figure something else out and come back. Like, I think that's the beauty of what we do. You know what I mean? Just especially as Black women, I just think that resilience and that, you know what, I'm gonna keep trying until I reach exactly what my goal is. Yeah. So now, can you talk to me about, now that you're here, this is what you've wanted, your own show. Yes. Can you talk to me about it? What are you guys doing with it? What do you want to do with it? Want to see it go?
Talent is an original music programming show that is one of the original programs of VON TV, which is VON TV. So a play on words there, and started with. They did the Heritage Film Series, which used to be held in person by VON, an annual event. So that was taken digitally, which is what we're doing now. So them starting this digital platform, I don't even think Melody knew how 2020, nobody knew how 2020 was going to be. But it kind of worked because now people are really doing everything digitally now. So talent was an idea of Melody to have someone, I don't want to say, I don't do interviews, I have conversations. That's my whole thing. But to have interviews with musical talent, up and coming artists, because Chicago has a great, we know for food, architecture, and all that, but music, sometimes we are in it, but not really. So we have a great blues scene, but Chicago can be kind of swept under the rug when it comes to music, and there's some great music here. So that is the plan for talent, to bring out up and coming artists, and Melody tapped me to be the host. And again, it's just great talking to people, getting to know their stories, because not only do they sing, they have a story. And I like to get the stories from them, because we see them by the time they get to being on the stage and singing. How did you get here? Why did you choose this song to sing? Why did you write this song? So we're doing, because of 2020, the way the year has gone, each guest that comes on talent, each talent guest has to sing a period piece. So like lift every voice and sing something about love, because we need it, especially the way this year has been. But talent, it is shot on location right now at M Lounge, which is Black owned. And supervising producer is Tracy Scruggs, and she's an amazing woman. Melody is the executive producer. I'm the host. And again, I'm excited to bring you all more musical talent in and around the Chicagoland area. And it's just so good, Danielle, to just meet people and allow them to chance to sing 2 songs. Right now, they sing 2 songs. And sponsor now, ComEd just came on as a sponsor of the show. So,
Amen for sponsors.
Girl, say that again. Yes. So
the city has such an untapped well of so I can't wait to see who's going to be on the show. And you're right, having it digitally, the timing of that, again, this is what we're doing now. And like I've told people, even when this is over, the virtual digital component is not going anywhere.
Nowhere.
Yeah, this is now part of what we do. And it's going to take people like WVON to be innovative and say, let's try it over here. And let's start using social media and digital platforms in a new way. And those are the ones, to me, that are going to survive, what's happening right now, especially in media. Like how we're, presenting our information. We all have to pivot and look at new ways to do things. So who are some of the guests or some of the people that you have planned on the show?
Well, we've already done 2 episodes, so you got to check out the link. First episode, which was last week, was Opal Staples. And we know her, part of the Staples Singers family. Amazing conversation that I had with her. And she was my first guest. Yesterday's episode, it was Miss Miracle Holloway. And Miracle was a contestant on The Voice on NBC last season. So she's like a fresh past contestant on Gwen Stefani's team. That girl, one of my homeboys in the barbershop watched this one last night. And they was like, we was almost in tears because it was that compelling. So she gave I want you to see it. She ended up, and she'll talk about it, gave her kidney to her boyfriend. And it's a great story. So she has a story, and her voice is so beautiful. So we get their talent, Danielle. I want them to sing, but I want people to know who they are. But again, it's about that talented voice. Like you said, so much untapped talent. And upcoming guests, you just got to wait and see. We got some good people on the list, though. I'll say that.
I gotta, it all to me is so relative in having control of our narrative. But the concept of having more creators that are taking charge of telling our stories. This is all to me, like I said, all of these, your shows, articles, this all goes into that time capsule of our history. And you have a piece of that, you know what I mean? You have a piece of telling that story. And that's what I love. It's so much more than a talent. For me, what's always been fascinating is the story behind it. The story, those songs, and to be able to have those conversations. What is it like with your own show where you're literally, you have more control over who you're having on the show and what you're talking about? What is that like to come to this moment that you've wanted for a very long time?
It's a blessing. I'll say it's an honor, but I will say nothing I've gotten has come without working for it. I stay focused. And me staying focused has allowed doors to open for me, but I worked hard. So to be in this seat now, it's like, it's still surreal, but I still work hard every day. Like it could be gone tomorrow. So
that's right.
Yeah, I don't get comfortable. I chill now because you got to celebrate. You don't want to overwork yourself, but it's a blessing that everything I've spoken and prayed for, even when when people didn't believe in me, people would laugh like, you want to do it? Why you want to do that? I never stopped believing in Samantha. I never did. Whatever, and it just, again, it's just a blessing, Danielle. It's a blessing. I always tell people, my story is one of doing what you love and just do what you love. You just got to do what you love and stay faithful and fearless. And I got jobs here and there, but one never comfortable.
Yeah. And you paid your dues, that's, I think, for you to start making $5 an hour, working a couple of hours, a day to come here, that's not somebody who was given anything. That's somebody who worked and earned their place. What advice would you give to people in media, women especially?
I would say get in where you can fit in, kind of like I did. If there's an opportunity, if there, be patient, but get close to the person who may be doing what you want to do. One main thing that I did when I thought I wanted to be a news anchor is reached out to Diane Burns, and she responded. You just never know. I say, be fearless in your approach, but don't be afraid to take opportunities that will lead up to being in front, because I never thought about producing. That is not even something that they tell you about, but producing led me to learn how to write news, which is a skill to know how to write. Yes. And as a reporter, you need to learn need to know how to write, because you're a reporter, then you're an anchor, if that's the route you want to take. And I never turned my nose up at another opportunity, but at the same time, if I wanted to be, just say, in front of the camera, I didn't necessarily want to keep working at the casino or taking a job at Starbucks. So to that person, I would say, get career jobs. Well, get jobs in your field. And keep working and moving, but don't turn your nose up or I don't want to do this if it's a position that's offered to you, especially if it's within your industry, to get you to where you need to be, because the right person gonna see you. The right person will hear you. And to the singers, keep singing, keep going to the places and keep putting your music out there, get it on iTunes. You gotta keep working though. Don't get weary in what you in your well doing. That's scripture too, but just keep going. And again, be open to other things that may not be what you want to do at the time, but can get you to where you want to be in due time. And I just want to stress, don't get upset if where you are at the time, if you're not where you want to be at the time. Just keep working, because you'll get there in due time. So
definitely. Oh, I appreciate you talking to me. So
you are welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Danielle.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.